The Emmys this year show that America is still racist. Well, at least that's what the narrative is continuously being, because it's 2020 and racism is still alive even more than it was during slavery. Plus, the people are upset with the verdict of Breonna Taylor. All this and more on the TJ Evans Show. Hello, I am TJ Evans and this is the TJ Evans Show. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to the Royal Family Studio page. It is free to do so and it helps us keep the lights on. Plus, this is going to be a quick video. I'm sorry to tell you that again, but we're still in the midst of shooting a movie and everything is going pretty smoothly. But on to the news for this past week. The Emmys got a tad bit awkward when Jimmy Kimmel and Anthony Anderson took the stage, and Anthony Anderson pestered Jimmy Kimmel to repeatedly say, "Black Lives Matter."
Before we announce the nominees, I have a few things that I'd like to say.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Because in rehearsal, I thought we decided that we're just
We have a record number of Black Emmy nominees this year, which is great. This is the part where the white people start to applaud. Oh. And nod. Oh. Thank you, Jimmy. All right, these Emmys would have been these Emmys would have been NBA All-Star Weekend and Wakanda all wrapped into one. This was supposed to be the blackest Emmys ever. Y'all wouldn't have been able to handle how black it was going to be. But because of COVID, we can't even get in the damn building. But you know what? I'm still rooting for everybody black. Because black stories, black performances, and Black Lives Matter. Say it with me, Jimmy. Black Lives Matter. Louder, Jimmy. Black Lives Matter. Louder, Jimmy. Say it so that Mike Pence can hear it. Black Lives Matter. That's right. And because Black Lives Matter, black people will stay at home tonight to be safe, which is fine because guess what? Y'all don't know how to light us anyway.
Yes, race is a major issue in America because today's media personalities and entertainers make sure it's on the forefront of life, just so that small people like you and me can understand that it's a major issue. Speaking of race, are the verdicts that came about in the past week. One being Jake Gardner, which you may not have heard about, and the other being Breonna Taylor. The first story is Jake Gardner. Now, Jake Gardner was an ex-Marine, and he was being held because of the simple fact that he decided to defend himself with a firearm from 3 assailants. 2 assailants jumped on Jake Gardner's head and beat him. He let off 2 warning shots. Those 2 assailants ran away. And then the 3rd assailant came out of nowhere, jumped on his head, and Jake Gardner decided to shoot him, and that individual died. Here's the video.
You can see Gardner is mounted by a guy, right? He fires a warning shot. That guy gets up and leaves. Away. He tries to get up, and that Skurlock who jumps in tackles him and continues punching him in the head, right? You see this here, and then he finally ends up shooting Skurlock. So this was outside of a bar. In case people don't remember this, now we can bring up the volume because it was his attorney.
To get the gun away from him.
Even if they're difficult decisions, even if they might be unpopular decisions. But it's based on what the evidence is and what the law is. And that's what I hope people understand here.
My apologies. I failed to mention that Jake Gardner is a white man, and the assailants happen to be 3 young black men. Jake Gardner also had the tragic opinion of supporting Donald Trump. That's always a no-no in today's society because orange man bad, as always. But he still had the right to defend himself from anyone trying to take his life or beat him because no one has the right to put their hands on you. The state leaned his way and said, you know what? Yes, he did have the right to defend himself, but that verdict didn't hold up too long because, again, in today's society, the mob mentality rules everything. So when he was being charged for these crimes, They said no, it was self-defense after holding up a grand jury, and the grand jury, people of the community, felt that he was defending himself. The mob, on the other hand, said, no, he killed a black man, and he's a white man, he supports Trump, so racism. When this happened, the district attorney decided to say, you're right, we're going to charge him with 4 felonies. And these 4 felonies could have landed him 94 years in prison. I don't know about you, but 94 years in prison as a white man being accused of killing a black man in today's America doesn't sound like too fun of a verdict. I mean, that judgment may be a little harsh for a lot of people. Now you say, yo, I'll fight that because of the simple fact that I was defending myself and the video clearly shows this. But Mr. Gardner did not feel this way. Sadly, he took his own life, and a certain state senator had this to say about this. Well, at least Senator Megan Hunt tweeted out, at Nebraska Megan, the indictment of Jake Gardner would never have happened without the community, the people who stood up for justice and demanded action from city officials, which means politicians caved to the mob that was going crazy, that's out for blood. Jake Gardner is gone, but the white supremacist attitudes that emboldened him are still with us today. So apparently he was a white supremacist because he was a white guy that supported Trump and he killed a Black Lives Matter protester, meaning rioter. It's disgusting because she's saying this over a dead man who took his own life, over a situation that could have been prevented if the politicians that are holding office had guts. If they stood up for what was right and what the law says. Like, clearly in the video, he was defending himself. He let off 2 warning shots. 2. One more than he actually had to do. Sean King, along with other people on social media, Facebook and all these things, left a couple of comments about this man. News articles coming out here and there saying that he was a white supremacist and that he was a racist, and the headlines were disgusting. They didn't even mention his name. Pretty much the overall feeling for this man was he was a racist, which was nothing of the sort because he believed in people's right to protest. They even have him on video earlier standing up and believing in the First Amendment. He was at different rallies with his MAGA hat on while opposition were protesting. And he had this to say about it.
What do you think about what's going on here today with the Women's March?
These people just want to be heard, and it's a very appropriate venue, a very appropriate weekend with all eyes on them. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of crazy being in the belly of the beast here with my Trump gear and my Make America Great vest on my dog, you know, and all the dirty looks. Everybody loves the dog until they read the vest, you know. But, you know, everybody just wants to be heard, and so that's what they're doing. They're not being violent. There's not even that issue with this group.
But it's sad, the affairs that we really have in today's society, that race is the major issue on any situation, and the injustice that is going on just because of mob mentality. Riots are taking over in the street, and there's no cause for it. Honestly, people are not getting the facts about these situations because the news media always spreads lies about it first, and then they have a cover-up about it in the back of the newspaper. You already read the headlines. You don't even care about it anymore. Same thing with the Breonna Taylor situation. The news media is spreading lies about Breonna Taylor and what happened to her. At first, they made it seem like the police just barged into this woman's home with her boyfriend while they were asleep and just shot up the place. And that's not what happened. But the verdict came out, And the attorney general, who is a black guy, found that the shooting was justified, but the people were not hearing it.
Evidence shows that officers both knocked and announced their presence at the apartment. The officers' statements about their announcement are corroborated by an independent witness who was near in proximity to apartment 4. In other words, the warrant was not served as a no-knock warrant. When officers were unable to get anyone to answer or open the door to apartment 4, the decision was made to breach the door. After breaching the door, Sergeant Mattingly was the first and only officer to enter the residence. Sergeant Mattingly identified 2 individuals standing beside one another at the end of the hall, a male and a female. In his statement, he says that the male was holding a gun, arms extended in a shooting stance. Sergeant Mattingly saw the man's gun fire, heard a boom, and immediately knew he was shot as a result of feeling heat in his upper thigh. Kenneth Walker fired the shot that hit Sergeant Mattingly, and there's no evidence to support that Sergeant Mattingly was hit by friendly fire from other officers.
A lot of things came up in social media about this individual. A lot of platitudes, a lot of cliches, like all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
I think it's grossly insufficient. It does not deal with the fact that the life of Breonna Taylor was taken. It does not address being a victim of being killed. The value of her life is not at all addressed in these charges. You could get endangerment if you shot in the air at nothing. You took a woman's life.
Cops busted into my house right now and shot me on the air. What Daniel Cameron basically told America is that that would be legal. If they thought that there was something wrong, I could be shot in broad daylight on national television in my house because the cops can break in and shoot whoever they want if they're concerned.
Incredibly disappointing day and a reminder of the tremendous work that must be done to address the ways in which racism infects every aspect of policing, the criminal justice system, and our lives.
I find all of his remarks with regards to this whole entire press conference offensive. And let me just speak to this whole celebrity influencer thing. While they can't speak for Kentuckians, let me say this as a black woman. He does not speak for black folks. He's skin folk, but he is not kinfolk. And so just like he thinks they can't speak for Kentucky because he's up there with a black face, he does not speak for all of us. This was not a tragedy. This was a murder.
If you don't know, all skin folk ain't kinfolk is a little bit of black on black racism, because they're pretty much portraying the same thing that the Democratic Party believes about all black people, that we share the same thoughts. Political is pretty much, the same way that the author of the 1619 Project tweeted out a couple things saying that they may be black in skin but not black politically, because, again, they think all black people think the same. But he was upholding the law. When the facts of this case came out, he followed the letter of the law. They were serving a no-knock warrant at this home for the boyfriend, Breonna Taylor, and a third individual in a second home being served at the same exact time. It was a no-knock warrant, and they knocked. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend came to the door. She was behind him. He let off a shot when the police came in after saying that they were the police. He shot first. The police returned fire. In the shootout, you're going to shoot until you feel like whatever you're shooting at has been neutralized. And that's what these officers did. Now, the shame of it is that she lost her life. She had no reason to lose her life. People are not even pointing fingers at the boyfriend who shot first. Honestly, fellas, how many of you would actually have your woman stand behind you when you feel that you're going into a firefight? your main objective is to protect that individual. She should have been in the closet or hitting out the back way, out the window or whatever. There was no reason for her to be directly behind her. But the facts of the matter is that they built up a case behind them because they were moving drugs. They have phone call evidence. They had a legal warrant. But at the end of the day, justice wasn't served because these officers in the streets of America are pretty much being chastised. There are riots going on everywhere. This happened in Louisville, Kentucky, but yet this is happening in LA.
White Prius and now a bunch of
so this individual actually did everything in his power not to hit the protesters, but apparently it's not cool if you don't hit them. They still attack you.
They have the driver pretty much boxed in. One of the demonstrators is now trying to pull the driver out of his vehicle. Right there, just collided with another car that was also part of the demonstration. And an additional person getting out. And you see that one person using what looks like a flag, perhaps a skateboard there, to damage.
And then, of course, since this being California, a leftist state, the individual who didn't hit the protesters, he was pulled over by the police and taken into police custody. That makes sense. This is because of the news media and the narrative that they spin each and every day. And they want to blame Trump on this. But the fact of the matter is that Trump has only been in office for 4 years. And if racism is something that has been embedded in America for centuries, it's not his fault. I mean, for God's sakes, we've had a black president. And didn't all this Black Lives Matter propaganda begin when Barack Obama was in office with the whole Mike Brown situation with the hands up, don't shoot narrative that has been proven false, that Barack Obama and his DOJ even said, yo, it was a justified shoot. All of this has been built on lies. And it's sad that the news media continues to push it. All I'm saying is that y'all need to do your own research about the things that's going on and don't get caught up in the hype. Do your own research. That's all I have for you today. Please subscribe to the page, like our content, and look at our old videos.